welcome. Steve Damasco, Grand Master, Steve Damasco Shaolin Studios. You might have noticed if you are, Ricky did a terrible job with this. You might have noticed if you're calling my studio now, hopefully they're answering the phone of Steve Damasco's Martial Arts. We're kind of changing the face a little bit only because after all these years of Shaolin Studios, that's still the official name. People don't know what Shaolin is. Some people still think I'm a movie studio, so martial arts covers everything. So just in case, my name is still on it, so at least we can identify with that. Today I'm going to talk about mentoring, which has been the pinnacle, if not the essence of most of my life, if not all of it. You know, when I was a kid, I told you before, I fought out of the Rocky Marciano gym as a kid, and I had no father influence, as most of you know that know anything about me. And so my boxing trainer, Vinny Vecchione, was a great guy, and we trained 7 days a week. I started that at about 16 years old. And I remember having my first fight and going in and winning my first fight. And I didn't think I was going to win because I was back there with the guy. It's not as glorious as everybody thinks it is. And this guy's telling me he had 15 fights, 14 knockouts. And I was pretty nervous because I hadn't even had a real fight yet. I mean, I'd done a lot of sparring. We had great fighters at the Rocky Marciano gym. We had not only just the Golden Gloves champion, but the New England champion, which is way above Golden Gloves. So I would be sparring with him. And so we had good. We had good fighters, so I've got in the ring a lot, but I never had a fight at that point. But anyway, I got in the ring. I was really scared. I don't remember even what happened. All I know is that the bell rang, the punches flew, and next thing I knew, it was over in the first round. I had won. So I came in the next day, and I was all excited. And I was a junior in high school, sophomore, junior in high school, beginning of the junior high school year. And I walked in, I announced loudly in front of everybody, including my boxing trainer, Vinny, saying, Vinny, you know what, I'm quitting high school. I'm going to be your next light heavyweight champion of the world. Really excited. I think I got great potential. I don't think I said all that. That's what I was thinking. But I did say I was going to quit high school. I'm going to be the next light heavyweight champion of the world. And he said, that's nice, Steve. He was in the ring with somebody. He just looked at me and he said, that's nice, Steve. Go change up. So I went to locker, changed up. So after I got in the ring, I did my warm-ups. You run 7 miles first, and 4 to 7 miles, and come back, and you hit the speed bag. And I got in the ring. And then after taking a severe beating from Vinny, which he usually didn't spar with us, he tells me to change back up, get in the car. So I get in the car. He drives me to Brockton High. I said, where are we going? He says, you'll see. He drives me to Brockton High School, where I was going to school, obviously. And he takes me to the principal's office. And again, Brockton High School had 7,000 kids at that point. There were 4 main buildings attached together. So each building had its own principal and one big headmaster. Anyway, Mr. Busalari, who I'll never forget, was the head principal there for me. And he knew who I was because of several different reasons, which I won't get into at this point. And he said, my name was Stevie Thompson at that point. Thompson was my stepfather's name. I fought a lot under that name too. But anyway, he said, Stevie Thompson boxes for me at the Rocky Marciano Gym, Ward 5. I want to know if he misses one more day of school. If he misses one more day of school, okay, or he decides to quit, which I know he's not going to do, and Vinny gives me the look, okay, then I want you to call me. Here's my number. Well, obviously, I didn't quit school because Vinny, first of all, beat the hell out of me in the ring, took me to the principal, and didn't let me quit school. And I had a tremendous amount of respect for Vinny. Hence, Steve Damasco sits in front of you, and many people know of the things that I've been able to do with my life. If there's any confusion about that, all you have to do is go on stevedamasco.com, and you'll be able to see a lot of that. So what I want to talk about today is mentoring. You know, this all started out for me, okay, besides being mentored myself with Vinny and keeping me in school. And as you know, I think you know, I have a master's degree in psychology and an honorary PhD in philosophy from the University Sports Academy in Alabama, United States Sports Academy in Alabama. But I started out when I was a second-degree black belt. I hadn't really worked with kids at that point other than teaching kids, and I was teaching in Manchester, New Hampshire at the karate school there, and I was second-degree black belt. One of my students was working at YDC, which is the youth prison for kids, and he said, you know, you've done great, you do a great job with these kids. I'm going to see, and he was a counselor, he was a guard there, or a counselor, guard or counselor, I can't remember. I think he was a guard. He said, why don't you come in, I'm going to see if I can bring you into this prison for kids and see if you can teach them some like martial arts, but obviously the philosophy and the discipline that goes along with it. And he got that approved, which was really a surprise to me, but I had never done anything like that before. So I went into this prison for children, you know, and again, to get into YDC, you have to be a repeat offender and get into a lot of trouble to get sent to one of these prisons because there's a full educational facility on it, and even back then, it cost about $90,000 a year to send one kid to one of these schools, if you wonder where your tax money's going. So, and they don't really rehabilitate anybody. But having said that, I had about 20 kids, 25 kids in that class for an entire year, and it went really, really, really well. A lot of those kids did well. A lot of those kids came to my school, which I wound up scholarshiping afterwards after they got out. And then I bought a school in Concord, New Hampshire. And the governor's chief of staff was one of my students. And I had told him what I had done in YDC in New Hampshire, because YDC covers the whole state of New Hampshire. And I said, I'd like to do this with the courts. And I said, this would really work well. I said, it worked well because they were confined there and they had to come to me, and they obviously liked it. So I went to the judges, the governor's office, and he's the chief of staff of the governor at the time, sets up this meeting with the two judges, okay, in Concord, New Hampshire. And I sit with them privately in their chambers. And I tell them what I want to do. And they both look at each other and they look at me as I'm sitting in a chair just like this. And it was a little intimidating. Actually, it was a lot intimidating, okay? And they looked at me and they said, are you out of your blank, blank mind? Well, that came to a surprise. You can fill in the blank, blank part. And they said, we're not interested in this. You know, you're going to be teaching already dangerous, potentially dangerous and dangerous kids how to hurt people. And I said, no, that's not what it's like. They said, well, this meeting is over. And it was over. So I went back to my friend and my student and friend, and I said, look, these judges were like pretty rude and did not want me there, and they refused the program. Hence, he calls the governor. Well, he goes and sees the governor. He sees him every day, and I have another meeting with the governor. I mean, with the judges. You know, these are court-appointed people, and hence, they give it a shot. Well, they tried it with a few people, a few of these kids, and the results were outstanding. To make a long story short about that part of it, okay, it went so well that they deputized me as a deputy probation officer. So I was actually a court officer of the law as a probation officer in the city of Concord. And which means they needed to do that for two reasons. One is I had for confidentiality, that I could get the records on all of these kids when they got in trouble with the police, with the law enforcement people, with police. And two, I had to be in court with these kids. So the program was called Motivational Martial Arts, MMA, and it was incredible. What had happened was, it got to a point where we were so successful with this program that they were actually court ordered. So you got to picture this scenario now. The judges at this point love the program, okay? And you got these kids that are repeat offenders. Now, I only got repeat offenders. These were not the kids that get in trouble, okay, and then they come into the program. These are kids that have been consistently getting arrested by the police, okay, is it Hillsborough? Not Hillsborough, Merrimack County. I think it's Merrimack County. I'm not sure, but I think that's the county and part of the Concord County. Getting consistently arrested and going to court, and now they are ready to go. The judges are going to order them to go to jail, YDC. So they're standing in front of the judges, and the judge looks at them and says, look, you have an option. Option one is you can go to prison, YDC. Option two is you can be court ordered, which is a stipulation of their probation, court ordered to go to I was still Steve Thompson at that point, the Motivational Martial Arts program, Well, let me think about this. You're a kid. You've been arrested several times. Do I want to go to prison or do I want to take karate classes? Well, little did they know what the karate classes entailed, but of course they all said that they wanted to take the karate classes. Well, it was a very, very powerful program, okay? It was very, very well monitored, okay? And I tracked and we tracked with every agency that they're with. And when I say every agency, probation and welfare, and because these kids have all kinds of counseling issues, all kinds of their families do. So there was a tracking system for these kids. These kids could not wear a different colored sneaker without all of us knowing about it. We held weekly meetings on every single one of these kids, okay? The end of that story is this. In a 2-year period, they court-ordered 100 kids to me I had in that program. At the end of that 2-year period, 80% of those kids, 80%, this was monitored, remember this, never had to go before a judge again. It was the highest rated program, okay, of success in the entire United States. Everybody was interviewing me. Everybody wanted to know why. It was a simple answer. Vinnie Vecchione. It was about a caring adult, which was me, and my black belts. I had 14 assistant instructors that helped at different intervals, but I was there with them every single day. They called me. I was teaching them. I talked about their programs, their families, their mothers, their fathers, if they existed in their life. I was there every day as Vinnie was for me. It's a simple, simple process. Very time-consuming, but it changed lives. Think about that, 100 kids that were complete offenders, repeat offenders, that were going to jail after being arrested so many times. 80% of them never had to go before a judge again. It was incredible. I didn't keep those stats. Actually, the welfare department kept those stats. It was just incredible. 3 of those kids still to this day run karate, successful martial arts studios. I've had 23 kids living in my home in the number of years, 35 years that I've been married, at different intervals, not all at the same time. This is the life that we've led. You know, having grown up in the streets and having Vinnie save me from quitting school, and it just, which changed my life, and just having a caring adult in my life changed and made all the difference in the world for me. There was 100 kids that changed their lives. There were other kids, and again, 80% never had to go before a judge again. So that tells you that out of 100 kids, 80 of them, okay, had hopefully somewhat successful lives. But we know one thing: they didn't get arrested again. It was an incredible program, and I've been continuing to do that work ever since. So after that, having done that for several years up in New Hampshire, I moved to Connecticut. I started working with the New Haven public school system. We sent black belts in. And I dealt with at this point, we've got an incredible track record. We're nationally recognized for the programs that I had done. And we went into 7 New Haven public schools. And my black belts there, I had a lot of schools in Connecticut. My black belts, I had them volunteer twice a week, all year long, in the schools in 7 New Haven public schools, starting in elementary school all the way to high school. In case you don't know New Haven, it's a very, very difficult place to live in. These were all inner city kids, and there were a lot of gangs there. This was monitored by the Yale Child Study Center, okay? So all these kids that were in that program were monitored, ability to be able to complete a task independently, attendance, okay, bullying, and grades, okay? And every single one of those were at the bottom, literally 0, like at the bottom of the barrel in terms of all the categories that their teachers had checked off in that we were monitoring. There were 6 different categories. I don't remember all of them, but the important ones were attendance, attitude, ability to complete a task independently, and grades, okay? I have those stats. At the end of that year, they had improved by over 80%. Again, it was incredible, and that was just twice a week, okay, for 1 year, and we carried that program on for years. So again, what was that? It's the Vinnie Vecchione syndrome, okay? It's a caring adult that they knew was going to be in their life twice a week, and they all had the black belt cell phone numbers. If they had any problems, they had my cell phone number. They could call. They had any issues. They had any questions. It was a caring adult was going to be there. Our lives okay, growing up the way we did. Whether I grew up in Spanish Harlem, New York, or the inner city of Brockton, or you grew up in New Haven or Bridgeport, or whatever inner city you grew up in, and you don't have to be even in an inner city, because the next story is really incredible, okay? Because it would be the first time I had to deal with this kind of kid, okay? Our lives are full of inconsistencies. So when you have a relatively semi-successful or successful, caring adult that you know, that you learn to trust, because the trust comes from consistency in their life, that they know they're going to wake up that next morning and they can make that phone call, you're going to be there, okay? Or they're going to show up at your place of business, or they're going to show up at your home, or they're going to show up wherever it is you're going to be, or they know you're going to be, and you're going to be there. Because those are not the things that happen for us the way we grow up as children, which is really reason why we don't trust people, okay? And it's and you either go to the dark side or you go to the other side. And this is the things that we do. Again, I call it, I don't know why I just started calling that, but it is the Vinnie Vecchione syndrome. It's about a caring adult, and it's about mentoring. And the statistics on mentoring, if you have any interest in this, just look it up, about somebody that has a caring adult in a person's life on an ongoing basis. Many people have come to me, by the way, and said to me, oh, I'd love to do what you kind of do. What can I do to help? And I look at them and I said, it's really nice that you want to help, but let me explain to you what you have to do, because you can do more damage than good. And what I mean by that is that unless you're willing to be there all the time, even when I go in and do talks, I give kids my cell phone number and I give them my email address. I say, once I'm here, I never leave. Even if it's one-time talk, like I did in Brockton last week for 100 inner city kids. They have my email address, they have my cell phone number. I can't be there in their house or their school every day, okay, but they can get in touch with me anytime they want. Once I'm there, I'm there. So I tell these people that want to help kids, unless you're willing to be there all the time, then it's not a good idea to get involved in mentoring, because it's consistency. They got to learn to trust you, and you've got to be available to them all the time. Like Jeff Scrocky is with these kids. Jeff Scrocky teaches at our program at the Strength and Honor Foundation in Winchester, New Hampshire for these kids. We have about 30, 35 kids in that program. He's there 3 times a week, every week, all year long. They know him, they love him, they know he's going to be there. That's the way it works. Jeff will be sick, and he'll go in and he'll teach these kids. He'll miss teaching at the karate school in Keene, which I'm okay with, but he doesn't miss teaching those kids, because he knows from me, this is what my mother did, this is what I do, and this is what I teach my black belts to do if they want to get involved with this kind of work. And this is what Jeff does. Now we're going to talk about the new kid. So I'm in Connecticut one day, and not one day, I've lived in Connecticut for 11 years, all 3 of my boys were born there, and I work out at gyms. And I use the aerobics room because I bring my weapons in, my kwandos, my swords, and I work out in the aerobics room because I don't like to work out in the karate schools, because that's like work to me when I go there. So I'll go to the gyms and use the aerobics rooms when they're not being used, which is usually in late morning. So this was a consistent base. I was at my friend Jerry and Mike. I'm drawing a little blank. He was Mr. World, great guy. Anyway, at the World Gym in Connecticut, in Hamden, Connecticut, and I'm working out. I'm there five days a week doing my work and bringing my swords in, and there's this kid sitting there, and I'm looking at him, and he's watching me, and I'm there the next day, and he's watching me through the window, because it's a window, it's an aerobics room, and the third day I go in there, I'm looking at him, and I said, "What's your name?" He goes, "My name is," I'm going to say John. It's not his name. He said, "John." And I said, "What are you doing here?" He said, "Aren't you supposed to be in school?" He said, "Well, I got thrown out of school." I said, "What for?" He said, "Well, I just got thrown out of school. I was drinking." I said, "How old are you?" He said, "I'm 13. I said, "Where's your mother?" And the mother was over there on doing the bicycle. And I went over and I said, "Look, my name is Steve Damasco. I'm Damasco at this point, And I said, "My name's Steve Damasco." I said, "I own a martial arts schools." I said, "Matt's been watching me, and he seems to have some interest in martial arts. And he told me he got some trouble in school. And I said, if you look up my website, you'll see that I do a lot of work with these kind of kids. All my instructors are trained, to deal with kids like this, and as well as other kids. And it would be great to get him involved in it, because he seems to have interest in it." "Oh, thank you so much." Blah 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 blah. So I come in the next day, and he said something really stupid about my double saws. I had my saws, and he said something really. Actually, I said, "No, oh, Matt, you can come in and watch. You can come in the room and watch." And I said, "John, if you want to watch, you can come in and watch." And he said something really like a wise comment. And I said, "Listen, John, if you're gonna watch me, shut up and watch, or get back out there and sit and watch your mother on the bicycle." I said, "What I do, I've spent my life doing, and it's serious, okay? And I don't usually let people watch me, but I'm letting you watch." So he was quiet. And this went on because he was suspended for a week. So I let him watch me all week long. We talked, and he seemed like a really nice kid. And like a month went by, and I hadn't seen Matt. And I saw his mother, and I went up to his mother at the gym, and I said, "Where is?" I used his name. I can't believe it. Anyway, I went up to his mother. He still don't know his last name. I went up to his mother, and I said, "Where is John?" And she said to me that John got into a lot of trouble at home, and I'm going to have him institutionalized. And I said, "What?" She said, "I'm going to have him institutionalized." So I said, "Why?" Now, it just so happens that this woman was extremely wealthy, owned a lot of buildings. He didn't come from the inner cities, and she was worth millions. And I said, "Why?" "Well, he ran away from home again." Now, again, he's 13 years old. And the police picked him up, brought him home. And I approached him on why is he doing this to us? We're good parents. Turns out Matt and his sister were both adopted. And again, I used his name. Anyway, you still don't know his last name. Anyway, they were both adopted, and he's just an angry kid. And we don't know how to handle him, and he's done so many things wrong, and he gets violent, and he took a big chopping knife, a big one, and started chopping the house up with it. And that was just over the top, and we're going to have him institutionalized. Now, they had the money to do this. And I said, "There's nothing wrong with Matt." I said, "Let me just ask you one more question. Has he ever hurt anybody physically? Has he ever put his hands on you, his sister, or anybody else? Or in school?" "Never touched any of us," she said. "So what you're telling me is that he's physically not aggressive. He just breaks things, hits things, and does physical damage to property when he gets angry." She says, "Yes." I said, "Well, so did I." I said, "I did that in the tune of probably a lot more money as a young kid than Matt, than he did." I said, "I was very angry." I said, "I understand. There's nothing wrong with him. He's just angry. He's got huge anger issues." I said, "Institutionalizing him will ruin his life for the rest of his life. They'll medicate him." Okay, she says, "He's already on 8 medications." I said, "He's on 8 medications?" Now I'm thinking to myself, he's on 13 years old, he's on 8 medications? And you're wondering why he's having all these outbursts? I said, "I'll take him." She said, "What?" I says, "I'll take him. I'll bring him home with me. He can live with me on one condition. You give me legal guardianship of him. I want to be able to make all the decisions for him." She goes, "Really, you'll take him?" I says, "He should not be institutionalized." So hence enough, we go through the legal process. She gives me legal guardianship. I show up with him at my doorstep. I said, "Kelly," I said, "he's moving in. He's got a bag in his hand full of drugs." I said, "What is in that bag?" He says, "All my medications." Now, I'm not a psychiatrist, but I knew what all those medications were. I took them and I threw them out. He called his mother and told his mother I threw them out. She called the psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist told her to have me institutionalized. That was very funny, and that's a true story. End of discussion. Matt was extremely difficult to deal with. He could not complete, at 13, 14 years old, he could not complete one task. My little boys were like 5 years old, could clear the table, rinse the, 6 years old, 7 years old, 6 years old, 7 years old, can clear the table, rinse the dishes, stack them, put them in the dishwasher, okay, sweep the floor, and do all of that at 7 years old. Matt could not even clear the table and rinse the dishes properly. So to get him to be able to do chores and do all of that stuff, okay, was incredible. We'd have to stand right on top of him. I would come home, and I swear to God, my wife's eyes would be like cross-eyed. Cross-eyed, she would be out of her mind dealing with Matt all day, okay? He lived with us for 2 years. He got thrown out of a very expensive high school. By the way, that was a private high school. End of story. After almost 3 years living with, after 2 full years, almost 3 years of living with us, Matt graduated with honors with the high school that he got thrown out of, that private high school. They broke ground for a brand new building which they had him break ground for. He graduated college and is working in the United States Congress. This is a kid that was going to be institutionalized. His life was going to be thrown away. One kid, one life, is now a major success. Thomas Edison, I'm drawing a blank who said this. But anyway, he said it. Who said it? I can't draw a blank. Said, every day, people tell me that I made this quote. For some reason I'm giving it to somebody else, but it's insignificant. Every day, a child is born in this country, in this world, that can change the world. We just don't know what child it is. So we must save each and every one of them. Thank you.
Hey!